Welcome to the Dream Achievers podcast, where we focus on business owners and purpose-driven leaders in our local communities. We meet people every day where we shop, eat, and do life, and want to bring their stories to you each and every Wednesday. Now, let's get to this week's guest.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Dream Achievers. This is Andy Young, the Mountain Money Man, and I am in probably not a familiar location with this view, but I'm joined by Renee Blevins here inside of the screen of the Moonlite Theater in Abingdon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, we are in an active construction site, so we might hear some noise in the background of everything that's ramping up here for the season of 2025. 76th year of the Moonlite, correct?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and ask the question that probably everybody that's watching this right now. How in the world did you decide to wake up one day and you went, you know what, I'm going to be the one that saves the Moonlite?
Well, it's been on our heart for several years. I came here as a child because I just lived 3 miles away. But in 1992, my husband and I met, and he had been doing some work here at the Moonlite for William Booker. And our first date, he had William take us to Scobie's in his limo. So trying to make a good impression on me. And then, so we, started coming here, during that period, quite frequently. And then when it closed in 2013, it was just sad that it closed, and hoped that, that they would be able to get the funds for the projector, and that didn't happen. So in 2016, my husband went to check on Mr. Booker to find out, how things were going. We called him Booker, to see how things were going. And they, struck up a conversation and thought, my husband is very creative and very energetic, and he's a dreamer. I think your podcast is called Dream Achievers. Yeah. Is that right? So he is a dreamer. He has big dreams. So they started working on a grassroots effort to try to, clean things up, get some movies started again, try to get some, raise some funds to try to get the projector going. And there's some things happened, and Mr. Booker ended up, not being very well at that time. His health had declined, which actually he died the next year. But in 2016, we had volunteers out here. We were cleaning everything up. Dickie Kaiser came and, mowed the grounds multiple times. So we showed several movies that year on the 35 millimeter projector. And it was just a lot of fun. So we invested a lot of ourselves because we wanted to see it saved. You just hate to see something with a historic value just be destroyed. So, our heart was in it, and we were very disappointed when things didn't work out. And so in 2024, my husband saw it went up for sale again. And I didn't want to talk about it. I'm like, no. But we were supposed to be on spring break. I'm actually a nurse by trade, and working in a school system for the past 17 years. And so we were on spring break, and I was ready to go to the beach. That's my thing, to go to the beach for spring break. And for summer, we were living in Nashville at the time. I was finishing up my last 6 years before retirement. So I was almost about a year and a half from that 6 year cutoff. And so I kept, make a reservation, and I'd say, no, I don't feel like I don't want to go or something. I didn't know why. And so we canceled our reservation. And I thought, well, maybe I'm just tired of going to the beach. Let's go to New Orleans. I've never been there. Didn't want to go to New Orleans. Well, let's go to Vegas. We can get cheap tickets to Vegas. Didn't want to go to Vegas. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Am I depressed? My daughter was pregnant at the time. And I thought, well, mate, the only thing I could think of is I wanted to come to Bristol. And I said, let's just go to Bristol, stay downtown in the hotel, like be sightseers in our own hometown, basically. And my husband was like, are you okay? Like, why do you want to do that? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe, something's going to happen with her and I need to be there. But for some reason, I think we need to be in Bristol. So Tuesday night of that week, my husband brought up the Moonlite again. And I was like, well, I always thought it was a great idea, and I hate to see, it just be abandoned. And he said, well, good, we've got an appointment to see it tomorrow. So 4:30 Wednesday, March the 13th, we came up here to look at it. And while we were gathering to meet, the wire was across the driveway. You couldn't come up. There was a whole lot of people gathering at the VFW, and we were like, what's going on? So the real estate agent came down to get us and said that those people had an appointment at 5:30 to see the Moonlite. So we came up, looked at things, saw that it was in much worse shape than it had been in 2016. Even though the barter had used the facility during 2020, there was a lot of damage that had been done. Wires were cut to all the panel boxes. The underground 3-phase wire had been cut in like 3 places. The roof had caved in this building, and the roof had caved in the concession stand. So it was like a total, if it hadn't been for the concrete floors, the concrete walls, and the steel in this building holding this screen tower up, it would have already crumbled. So we found out that the group that was coming at 5:30 had already been to the county to get it torn down. So we felt like we were,
the last line of defense.
Yeah, last line of defense. And we had to make a decision like quickly because they were making an offer. So we made an offer, and thankfully, we were able to get it. But I say all the time, I don't think I'm being dramatic when I say it was an hour away from being torn down.
Well, it's, we sit on prime property here between Abingdon and Bristol. When you drive by at night, I was so excited last year when the Moonlite lit back up.
Yeah.
And you could drive by on 81 and you could see that kind of beacon with that. And I know it meant so much to so many people in the region because they grew up that was a big part of, we talk about opening in 1949 until today, a few years of being shut down. But for a lot of people, they have memories of coming here.
Right.
My wife could remember her dad fixing up an old Jeep that was his uncle's, and she and one of her sisters coming and laying the blankets out in the Jeep, and that was a really big deal to them,
right,
to be able to come.
We had people when we started construction, and every day people would come through. They wanted to see what was going on, take pictures, and talk about their memories. And so we have heard so many stories about the memories that people have. People they were in visiting from out of town, and they grew up here or whatever, and they had their memories. They wanted to come by and see it, and they were excited that it wasn't, that it was under refurbishment.
Well, and I know it's no small undertaking as far as with when you make that offer and it's accepted, you're like, okay, now it's real.
Yeah.
We're really we in order to save this, we have to make it a viable business.
Right.
With that, one of the challenges I know you've been up against is turning this into a multi-use property.
Yes.
How has that process gone?
We've had some issues. We had, some issues with the Planning and Zoning Commission. It took several months to even get to the point that they would approve that we could use it for a multi-purpose venue. Virginia Department of Transportation, there's just so much red tape that you have to go through. That was probably the more frustrating part, but that's all taken care of now. Everything's good. We tried to come up with ideas. Like initially, this was a multi-purpose venue. When it was built, we have an article from the newspaper in May of 1949 that they had the way the field is structured. They have reverse incline parking spots, so you could park one way to look at the screen or park another way and still have the angle to be able to see concerts on top of the concession stand.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's the part of the building that is the projection area, it has a concrete roof. So it's like a bunker. If there's ever a tornado, that's probably where you want to go.
You mentioned the projector. You said earlier, during the time when it was the attempted relaunch,
yes,
the first time that you were still showing movies on a 35 millimeter projector.
Yes.
I know that there was a crate that arrived recently,
yes,
to help out with that goal of being able to show modern technology, new movies. again, that was a huge deal to be able to happen, to have that show up. Why do you have to have that change in technology from the old to the new?
You can still use the 35 millimeter projectors. The Mahoning Drive-In is a prime example of that. They were able to save the drive-in by showing 35 millimeter films. That's all they do. So you can do that. But in order to get new release, those are all retro movies. Mm-hmm. You can't get new movies on 35 millimeter film. It has to be digital. So we decided the digital projectors that came out in 2012, 13, they're getting to the end of life now. And the new modern technology is laser projectors. Okay. And so we decided to go with a laser projector, and we're excited about that. I think we'll be the only one in the area. We had to go to Dearborn, Michigan, to look at one in operation to see if it was worth the extra money to do laser, and we decided it was. So now, I think it's going to be really cool.
I've been following along. I noticed you guys have done a few different of those trips and events to help gather information from other people that are involved in film industry or involved especially in drive-in theaters and that resurgence. That sounds like you like to travel, so I'm sure that you're not upset with doing that. But what are some of those events that you've been to, and what have you learned that a takeaway to be able to apply here?
Right. Well, we were able to join a organization called UDTOA. It's the United Drive-In Theater Owners Association. We were allowed to join that because this was at a position where it could still be an operating theater, because we had the projector and everything. We could have opened up just with what we had, just cleaning up some things. But since it had been, had been members of it before, and it was still in a position where it could be used, they let us go ahead and join. There's some other organizations they won't let us join until we're actually open. So the folks at UDTOA are amazing. They love drive-ins. They're drive-in theater owner operators, and they love drive-ins. They are so helpful. We get on calls every week. In fact, we've got a call tonight. We've got several new owner operators that are, in the midst of just learning, because, we just had a dream to do something. And so they get on the call early, and they will answer every question we have. And they have, shared ways, revenue streaming, opportunities, the best way to serve out of the concession stand, how to get movies, how, you get all the contacts for booking agents. So at the end of January, we went to Florida to their convention for a week and learned so much. They had a trade show, so, we were able to talk to different vendors in this, you don't
have to seek them out. They were all right there.
They were there.
That's something I didn't even think of.
So we're like, so we just learned so much about operating, and these weekly calls have been just absolutely fabulous. Next week, we haven't made reservations yet, but I think my daughter and I might go to CinemaCon in Las Vegas. Since I didn't go for spring break last year.
There you go. Get it in.
Yeah, so that's on our agenda for today, to go ahead and try to get that scheduled to go. Just to just find out everything we can about this industry, so we can operate with excellence. And that's what we want. We want to, preserve the historical relevance of this property, trying to bring everything back as original as we can, at least to the era. Like the windows here, we had those specifically made from the blueprint or whatever of the old windows. We wanted them to be exactly the same, but meet code. Yeah. So they look exactly the same, but they do meet code. Everything we wanted to be as original as we possibly could, but update it to where everything is fresh and new and fun.
It's going to last a long time.
Yeah, and we'll be here for a while, at least for the rest of my life.
So when we see this time and effort that's been put in to be able to get back to where we're at right now. When is the hope? I know originally the hope was, hey, in the fall that we would relaunch, and you had Clint Black that came out that performed, bringing in that multi-use of the property.
Right.
We had that. We had food trucks. We had a lot of fun that was here. What is the hope as far as the relaunch for this year?
We are hoping to open in May. So that's our goal. We want to have a grand opening like the third week or so. We've sent emails out. In fact, we sent another one out last night inviting the governor to come to our grand opening. And I was like, Kyle, do you think you're going to be ready? I have my concerns. And he said, I will make it happen.
Yeah.
And so I think once he gets his mindset to something, he's going to make it happen. So our goal is to have things to a point that we can have some friends and family events the first few weeks of May to get, make sure our concessions running smoothly and that kind of thing, and then try to open May the 23rd, 24th, weekend of that.
So the weekend before Plum Alley Days.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've spent a lot of time and effort, it seems like to me, reaching out to the community to pull on the experience that others have had here. I've seen that you've asked about recipes in the concession stand. You've asked about, hey, there's the concrete pads out front. Does anybody remember what was there? Why is that so important?
Because we want to maintain that history, we would love to be able to put a playground back. Of course, we couldn't put the exact same equipment here because it's not it's not safe. Our insurance agent has said no playground, so we're going to see if we can work around to actually have a playground. But we want to make just some of the things, like everybody talks about Cherry Smash. So we found out what Cherry Smash is. So we're planning to have Cherry Smash in the concession stand. We decided to go ahead and put a grill in so we could have hamburgers and hot dogs and French fries and all those, kind of the staples that were there, from the beginning. We have found concession daily reports from 1951.
Wow.
And it showed everything that they sold in 1951. So it was hamburgers, cheeseburgers, hot dogs, cigarettes, cigars, aspirin, milkshakes, custard, chicken baskets. But it was really fun to find the pieces of history here. Apparently, Mr. Field, who built the theater, he owned a lot of other businesses. He owned Clinch Theater, Lee Theater. We have found so many paperwork from so many of the places that he owned because he stored them above us.
Okay.
So in the screen tower, they were just papers just laying out. They were not in boxes or anything. We have 6 big trash bags full of papers that we have not had time to go through. And it's from all his other businesses. We were working back in the bedroom back here and cutting a piece of metal, and a bunch of insulation fell on the floor. And in that insulation were some papers, and the concession reports for the Moonlite were in that. And we'd already taken bags of papers out, but it was just down in the blown insulation. And also a little packet of invoices for movies that had been shown here. And when I picked it up and started looking at it, they were in pretty good condition. It was in that packet was the invoice for the first movie that was ever shown here.
I saw that was posted. I hope that is framed and put in here somewhere.
It will be. We're going to have in the concession. We're going to have a museum type area and one of the side of the addition that we put on. We're going to put the 35 millimeter projector out there. We're going to get pictures and things like that. We actually bought the one sheet, the poster for the movie. So we're going to put that along with the receipt for the invoice for the first movie.
I think that's great because we have had a resurgence of restoration for a lot of the theaters that the physical building still existed. So between the Lyric Theater in St. Paul, Russell Theater in Lebanon, we've had over in Raven as well, but there's been a lot of this kind of local because that was the hangout. That was where
Right.
people went. They have so many memories and nostalgia there. But to be able to have that much more layers to it, as far as the history that goes along with it, and show, I think it was $50 to rent
the movie.
that movie.
It was.
With that, I'm guessing they're a little more than $50 now.
Yes, now it's a percentage of your ticket sales. So that can range from, I don't know, up to like all of it. If you want to mix movies between studios, then you're going to have to pay both studios because we do double features.
Yeah.
So it could be 90%. If you did that, they could take 90% of your ticket sales. So we're not planning to make a lot of money off of our ticket sales. We really need people to go to the concession. That's where, people have said, other drive-ins, we're just a restaurant that shows movies on a big screen, because that's where the revenue really comes from. Advertising, we need people, local businesses to advertise with us. There's just a lot to it, and we need the community support. I'm like, I hope we don't just have a museum up here and everybody just comes by and says, oh, how pretty, but they don't come to actually, support us by buying tickets and coming to the movie. So I said, I don't know if we'll have 2 people or 2,000 people. Hopefully somewhere in the middle.
I think you'll have a line down the road like it used to be when that opening night comes again.
I hope so.
Here to the Moonlight. Well, Renee, I really appreciate your time to be able to share some of the history. It's a little dreary outside today, but I am going to grab some footage that we're going to show to be able to show the progress of where we're at right now and what's going on. If you are able to go around and talk any with that, I'd love to have
I'd be
you.
glad to.
But for those that want to see that, stick around, and we'll show some more.
All right, thank you.